All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the first webinar of our Director's Cut webinar series. The first webinar in the series we're calling Meet the Cast of AssetWorks Mobile Solutions. We'll be covering all the ways you can optimize your fleet operations using our advanced mobile applications. My name is Colleen Boucher, and I'll be acting as moderator for today's presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a second, but before we do, I want to take a moment to introduce our host, Bob Sparks. Some of you may have worked with Bob before, but for anyone who has not, Bob has been with AssetWorks for 20 years and has experience as a fleet manager, fleet consultant, and has spent nearly 30 years implementing fleet software. Some of the recent projects that he has handled includes Sempra Utilities, Denver Water, XPO Logistics, County of San Diego, City of Long Beach, and Waste Management. Bob's expertise includes organization structure and system setup, preventative maintenance and inspection capabilities, reporting and metrics, benchmarking, and workflow management. We are thrilled to have him as our host today. Just a quick heads up before we get started, the microphones have been muted, so if you have any questions at any time during the presentation, you're encouraged to use the WebEx chat tool. And just take a look at your computer, and if you notice that you're not muted, if you could, that would be helpful. You should all see the chat icon located in the top right corner of your screen. This acts as an instant messaging tool, so feel free to use the chat tool to enter any questions during the presentation and make sure you send them to the host, and I'll be happy to field and relay them to Bob at the conclusion of the presentation for a brief Q&A. We are just going to hold you for only half hour today. That's what we promised, and we're going to stick to it. With that said, I think we're ready to get started. Bob, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thanks everybody for attending the first webinar in our series. That's very exciting. As Colleen mentioned, I've been in this business a while, so I'm very excited to be the presenter for this particular webinar because it really takes our applications and puts it in the hands of those that need it. So going along with our theme, and especially coming up on our next academy in my neck of the woods, which should be in Hollywood, we're going to stick with the theme. And so what is a smart app? The presentation today is covering that. And really, it's a way to take the FleetFocus application and put it in the hands of your customers and your mobile workforce. Which, if you think about it, if you've been in the business as long as I have, I mean, I went from cards and, green paper and black screens. And now our workforce, our mobile workforce and our customers can actually have tools in their hands to do their job, which is just really exciting to me and a really fun thing. So what I'm going to cover today and talk about is our smart applications. They are customer-oriented, and there are some that are mobile workforce related. Inspection checklist is one, and that's kind of both. It's a hybrid. So your mobile workforce can do inspections, or your drivers, say, your customers, can do their pre-post-trip inspections. They can also create what we call service or work requests, which is an instant notification to the shop that they need something done with their vehicle or their unit or their asset, which is very helpful. The reservation center for those operations that have pooled vehicles or equipment, where they can make, cancel, manage reservations. My Vehicle, which in the palm of a customer's hand can tell them the work history of their vehicle, services, jobs that are due, the maintenance history, dashboards. So once again, that could be for your customers or your mobile workforce. And those are just reports, basically, in-your-face fleet management, or just, hey, this needs to be done, or this is something that needs your attention. And there's really no limit to what that could really mean. Work centers for your mobile workforce, and that way your technicians can do work not in the shop or in a large shop if they're not physically tethered to a workstation. They can charge parts, they can create work orders, they can add jobs, which is really nice. My Inventory is a physical inventory taking tool, so you don't have to be tethered once again, and you can just walk bin to bin to bin, or say you've got tires in a Connex or something like that, and you can count them using your smart app. Collisions So if I'm involved in an incident on the road, whatever you may call that incident, if it's a collision or an accident or whatever you call those can be recorded live time, well, hopefully shortly after the live time. And you can take photographs, and if you've got the GPS on your mobile application, then you record it exactly where you are. So it's a very, very handy tool. And yard check is another one, and that could be either mobile workforce or customer-based. And that's basically what's in my yard. It could be what's on my ready line, or what's been dropped off, what hasn't been picked up, or what have I not addressed yet. And I can record conditions and meter readings. So just as a snapshot, those are our smart applications. So first, what I wanted to go through is our inspection checklist. Now, I have to thank our marketing staff, Colleen and Jordan, who helped me learn how to capture what was on my phone. So when I do demos for the smart apps, I always try to say, hey, if you've got a smart app, if you've got a phone, like something that's HTML5 or it's a smartphone, put in these URLs so you can see it. It looks much better on your phone. So what I've done today is I've actually captured what it actually looks like, and you're going to see that now. So first we're going to look at the inspection checklist. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up a picture of my phone, and you can see it brings up the app. If you've been logged into it before, it actually brings it up. If you haven't logged in, you can look at your bookmarks and then click on the bookmark you're concerned with. This would be collisions. So now just to show you, it's authenticating me. And once I come up, that first vehicle, my vehicle there, that's my vehicle. Those other vehicles are vehicles that I have access to. They're in my using department or in the business entity that I'm part of. You can also set it up so I can look at everything if I have that access. I'm going to do a checklist now. So whatever checklist that you have that's I'm authorized to see, I can click on it, and then I have a choice of entering a meter reading if I desire. I'm going to cover meter readings in a little bit, so I'm going to go right into the checklist. And this one I'm entering tire pressures, so I'm just going to enter them from my keypad. So I'm typing away here. Just going to scroll down as I enter them. If I make a mistake, I can just back up and fix it. Entering in there. And then the last one on this checklist is my condition okay. So in that case, you can just click yes or no if it's not. All of these measurements or whatever on a checklist can actually kick off a service request or a work request if there's something that fails. So it could be a brake inspection if there's what's left on the brakes, or say I've got a headlight or a tail light out. So I record those conditions. I can review what I've done. I can see my results. I can also require a signature. So I just mark the signature block there. I'm going to sign it. And once I process this, now I can review and I can see which one's passed, which one failed. You see at the bottom there, I've got a fail. The icon looks a little different. If I want to click on that, I can look at it again. There's no work order yet, so that was blank. And I can scroll up and down and review it as I desire. What's nice is now in the MobileFocus application, the service request is created. So you could have a series of notifications or dashboards that would alert the shop, but this is now a service request that's been created. From there, I'm going to look at my history. So I'm clicking on checklist history, and I can see all the things, the checklist that I've done. So if these are my pre-trips or my post-trips, I can review those at any time. Click on them, see what I recorded, and I have access to them right there. So daytime, it's a record of exactly what's happened. All right, going to go back now, and I'm going to look at meter readings. So I said I would do that. So you don't have to do this. This is something if you want, or if your customers or you don't have another way to get meter readings, this is a way to get it. So they just use their keypad, enter in the mileages. It will go through your reasonability checks that you have set up in MobileFocus. So if they're out of range, it would tell them that and not allow them to enter that. And then go to service requests. So if I find something is wrong with my asset or my vehicle, I can report an issue. I can see the ones that are outstanding, and you can see the service or work request numbers are there. I could type a description. I could take a picture of it. Or if you're using symptom codes, you can choose a symptom. In this case, let's say I'm having poor braking. Maybe I've got brake drag or something. So I can click on a symptom. If those symptoms are tied to the proper job coding, then the system will know that, what the job code should be. I can type in a description if I want. So in this case, I'm going to say I've got brake drag. So I just use my keypad, type away. All right. And then once I'm finished with that, I can just click on that blue done, and it will take it. What's nice about that little camera icon there is you clicked on that, then you could actually take a picture or pull a picture off of your smartphone or tablet or whatever you're using. So that's a picture of that right there. So you can take a photo or video or pull something off of your device. I'll cover that when we go through the collisions app. So I'm going to skip that for right now. And I'm just going to submit this particular one. It's going to ask me, do I want to create the service request? And if I want to do that, I can say yes. If I want to say no, then I can fix and then reprocess if I desire. So that's pretty simple, and that's creating a service request. And that, once you're finished, you can scroll through and look at it. See, there's no work order yet, so that's blank. There's a service request number. So that is, just envision your operators doing all of that right from their own handheld device. So that would be the inspection checklist app. I'd like to go now to My Vehicle. So this was, it's more customer facing, and I'll go through that one. So once again, I'm launching the app. It's going to authenticate. Now, the first time you do this on your device, on your phone or on your tablet or whatever, you'll have to log in, but it remembers you after that. So this is My Vehicle. I set this one up so that I just had access to My Vehicle. Now, I can do service requests, which we've already covered in the inspection app. The vendor gateway, which is an optional module. On this one, we're going to go to work history next. So we're going to click on that one so that the operator or the person that's using this app can see what's been done to their asset. So let's say I'm curious about that job that was install in-car camera, whatever that means. I want to see what that is. So I'm going to click on that right arrow, that red circle with the white arrow in it. So when I click on that, it'll actually bring up that particular job, describe it, give me the job code, when it was done, the reason it was done, where it was done, the description, the system of the vehicle, and if it came from an incident, it would show me that as well. If there were parts put on, I could see that. In this case, I'm reviewing the notes. If I wanted to look at it in detail, then I could click on that other arrow and look at that. So this, you can go back, you can see any of the history on this asset for its life, basically. So now I'm going to go look at scheduled work. And you see there's a little 7 next to it. So there are 7 scheduled items. It's defaulting, in this case, to all work that's scheduled. It's from the demo database, so you can see that it says 2017. I could click PMs only and look at just services. So I'm scrolling up and down, you can see that. If I was interested in any one of those, I could click on the arrow and look at the detail, see when it was due and what the source was and what the service or work request number was, and if it came from an incident, or review the notes. And I can use the back button if I want to go back. I could also hit the home and go back to my home page. Okay, so now I'm going to go into and look at my preferred vendors. So let's say I was actually operating and I've got a breakdown. Now the system the first time is going to ask you, can you use the GPS on your device? If you say okay, then the system's going to know where you are. And now I'm bringing up what's been set up in the FleetFocus application as your preferred vendors. So in this case, I can see the details for that vendor, and hopefully there's some phone or contact information, but at least you know where to go. So that's pretty nice, especially if you're on the road and you might have thousands of vendors in your database. Now let's say, if this is customer facing, very hard for fleet organizations to know where vehicles are parked during the workday. If you want, you can give this functionality to your customers where they can actually change the parking location. Where is this asset parked? Where is it located during the day? So I click on one of those. System will then ask me, do I want to actually change the parking location? If I say yes, then it will change that location. And I've now changed where this asset resides, however you define parking locations. Works the same kind of way for operators. So very difficult to know if you're a fleet maintenance organization. Your customers usually maintain who operates a vehicle. So this is my vehicle, and let's say I'm now going to assign this to Christy. So I would click on her, and it's going to ask me, do I want to confirm? I'll say yes, and I'm now changing my operator from me to Christy in this case. Okay, now I'm going back again, and I'm going to look at using departments. So now what business entity is actually using this vehicle? And any of these, by the way, you determine what whoever's using my vehicle gets access to. Works the same way. You change the using department by clicking on it and then confirming. And that, in a nutshell, is the My Vehicle app. Okay? Next, I'm going to WorkCenter. So this is the application that your mobile workforce would use. So whether it's, at the very ends of a large facility, or if there's somebody who's on the road, as long as you're connected, you can, this work center would allow a technician to do what that technician needs to do. So right now, this is telling me that I am not currently logged on to any jobs. So let's assume that I want to record labor here real time, and I'm going to go to an indirect task. I can use the search button and type, and as you see, as I type, it's real-time, narrowing down my search. So I'm going to start off with a meeting, and it asks me, do I want to actually go into a meeting? I'm going to say yes, and it's now starting the clock for a meeting. And that shows me. If I log in, it shows exactly what I'm currently doing, and that clock will tick as you go along. If I want to know what I'm assigned, I can click on that assigned button. I see there's a 1 next to it. So I am assigned one job. If I want to see that job, or if I want to clock onto it, I click on the little arrow, and I can view notes on the job or the work order. I can look at job information. No work order notes on this one. I can also scroll down and see if there are any parts that have been issued to this job yet. None yet. If I scroll back up, I can look at the notes. I can affect the notes. So if I click on the job note, I can see it. I can hit the plus and add. In this case, I can see, driver hit a curb. I'm going to go back. Once I go back, then if I see that start job, that big green button, if I click on that, it now shows me that I am on that job. Notice at the bottom, the remaining SRT. This particular job doesn't have a standard repair time set up. So that says 0, and already, I guess in the past, there was some time charged to it. Some other things I can do, I can add jobs, review notes, issue parts. I can look at the work history on this unit. I can attach a file. And at the bottom there, I could stop my time on this task. So you see you've got full functionality there. So if I'm going to stop this task, I'm telling the system, okay, what's the status of this? So for FleetFocus M5 customers, that's the job status. For the F8 customer, it would ask you what the WAC code was. And now I'm not currently logged on to anything. If I click more, so I only have one job assigned to me, I could find a job. I could create a new work order if I have access to that. In this case, to find a job, it lists jobs that are actually in the shop or on work orders now. I can search for them by typing. So in this case, I type 999, so any job code with 999 in it will, narrow the search down to that. To create a work order, it's actually just like creating a work order in FleetFocus. On the M5 side, you can do unit or component or department work orders. On the FA side, it's just like FA works. I can view previous work. Once I've been working for a while, I can always check my timesheet by day, by week, by month. I can scroll around, so I clicked on month and I went to week. I can go back and say, okay, I forget what I'm on. Go back here, look at the day. There's my day. So really at your fingertips, the mobile workforce can do pretty much anything that they need to do. All right, so that's our work center. Now collisions. Some folks don't call it collisions, but in this case we call it collision. So what happens when I'm involved in a collision or an incident? If I have this app, I can record what's happened just after it's happened. So I'm logging in. Here are the vehicles that this particular user has access to. I want to find the vehicle, so I'm going to bring up my vehicle. So I'm going to type where it says enter license plate number. Now you can type part of a license or part of a vehicle number, and once you start typing, your results narrow. So I know my vehicle number, type 12422, and there I see it at the bottom. So I'm going to click on that. It knows the date. It knows the time. Now I can click on describe and type something, if I'd like, about the incident. So I'm going to enter a description. I'm going to say I hit a pothole. We recently had a bunch of rains out here in California, so we've got all kinds of potholes showing up, so I thought that would be appropriate. So I hit a pothole, and then I'm going to say done and save that. Now what's nice is I've turned my GPS on, so the system's going to know where I am. So if I click continue, bang, and I actually recorded this last week at our academy, and we were in Atlanta, so that's exactly where I was. So that popped up automatically. I could enter in a description. I can take that out. I can edit that if I wish. You don't have to have your GPS on. If I click continue, I can say, okay, well, was anybody else involved? In this case, I'm going to say yes. These could be drivers, passengers, witnesses. In this case, I'm going to add my fifth favorite person. So I'm typing in his name. And I don't have to do email and phone, but I'm going to say that Gordon was the passenger and click on that. And from there, I can continue. Now, these forms can be customized. This is the out-of-the-box form. If I want to, I can add a photo. I could take a photo or select something from my photo library or whatever I have access to on my device. So I'm going to show you that here. So I'm going to click on my photo library and bring up, so I hit a pothole, so I've got a bent rim I took a picture of. So I'm going to click on the bent rim. Now I'm thinking, I'm not so sure I like that picture too much. Scrolling back, I'm probably going to end up deleting that photo and submit without it. So I'm going to go back and click on it and delete it. And then I'm going to submit the accent form. You see there's a reference number there. And just to show you, once you do that, that's that same accent. And this happens to be FleetFocus M5. It works the same way in FleetFocus FA, where you actually get your accent is created in the application. And that is a quick run-through of how the SmartApps work. I would like to pass the ball back to Colleen so we can field some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bob. That was an awesome presentation. I know I learned a lot, and I hope that this gave our customers a high-level view of some of the applications available to them in the suite that could really improve their fleet operations. So we are going to open up the floor for some of the questions that came through. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to the host using the WebEx chat tool on your screen. Provided we have enough time, I'll pass your questions to Bob, and he'll be happy to give you an answer. If for some reason we run out of time, we do want to keep everybody at that half-hour time frame, then any remaining questions we'll follow up with directly offline. So one of the first questions that came through, Bob, was someone, when you were going through the Work Center app, wanted to ask you to clarify what you meant when you said as long as you are connected. So this would have been right at the beginning as you were logging in and authenticating. I don't know if you remember having mentioned that, but can you talk a little bit about connectivity and how these apps work with Wi-Fi or without Wi-Fi?
Certainly, and I did mention that on purpose, hoping someone would ask that question. The SmartApps are connected applications, which means in order for them to function, you do have to have a connection to the database, which would be through a URL. So there's no store forward in the SmartApps at this current time, so you have to be connected.
Okay, and just as a brief yes or no, do we have other options that are disconnected and don't require Wi-Fi access? Are you aware of that?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay,
So, in our MobileFocus suite, we do have handhelds that are capable of storing forward. They don't happen to be part of the SmartApps suites, but we have a tool, we have an app for that, which would be our handheld devices.
Wonderful. Okay. Moving right along, somebody else wanted to know, and you mentioned this briefly, but I'm hoping we can cover it again. Do you have to log in every time, or does it depend on device whether it remembers your information, or is it pretty consistent that the way the application is set up that it's going to remember your login details every time you access it?
No, the only one you have to log into each time is the Collision app.
Okay.
The other apps, once you log in, it remembers you and takes you to your home page.
Okay. Just moving right along. One of the questions was if you're able to restrict the checklists that show up, how editable are those checklists throughout the application?
They are entirely configurable. So in your FleetFocus application, you can have checklists for all kinds of things. You identify which ones that you want on the SmartApp devices. So on the inspection checklist, for example. So you designate, yes, this is SmartApp capable, and then you also can require the signature or not on those. But they're 100% customizable.
Okay, great. Someone else wanted to know if the service requests or work requests are synonymous. Can you go through some of those differences and how they're similar and how they're different?
They're not. They're the same. It's just a different word. The FleetFocus FA nomenclature is service request, and then the FleetFocus M5 is work request. But we kind of mix and match. They're the same thing.
Sure. Okay. Just moving right along. We do have another minute or two, so I'm going to wrap up in a second. Someone wanted to know, how does the SmartApp know how to categorize vendors? Is that preset in FleetFocus? Or is it automatically done? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's done in the FleetFocus application. So, for example, in FleetFocus M5, you identify who your preferred vendors are and what types of services they can provide. So that's done on the FleetFocus application side, and then it's just delivered to the SmartApps as the front end of it. But all the setup's done in FleetFocus.
So it sounds like it syncs down automatically based on what's set up in FleetFocus.
It's just what the SmartApp sees are your preferred vendors. I mean, you might have thousands of vendors, but you might designate specific ones as your preferred ones.
Okay. We have some questions about security. So is the creating work order function restricted by FleetFocus security, or how does that filter down in terms of the layers of what's secured to different users?
Yeah, really, the SmartApp is just your user interface. So all of your roles, your privileges, and so on are set in FleetFocus, and they still apply. So if I don't have access in FleetFocus to create a work order, I can't do it on the SmartApp, and vice versa.
Okay, and that would be the case across parking locations, operators, all those different, any of the hierarchies set up in FleetFocus and the permissions associated with them are also what appear in the SmartApp depending on the app. Is that right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Okay. We did have some other questions, but I do want to wrap it up there, keep everybody within the time frame that we promised them. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Like I said, I learned a lot. Thank you to Bob for walking us through that. You really just showed us a lot of functionality that I think is going to be very helpful. Thanks everybody on behalf of AssetWorks. We will be sending out an email in the next day or so with today's webinar recording. Feel free to share it with staff that you think might benefit from viewing the webinar. You can also revisit this at any time. And we hope you'll join us in the future. Thank you again for attending today. We will stick around on the line for just another minute or two in case anything comes up. But otherwise, have a great day, guys.